All right, so this is actually a re-upload of last week's video because I needed to make some changes. All right, so today on the Fixit Shed, going to be working on my 2011 Ford Fiesta. So I've had a P0420 code for a while now. So I've done a lot of things to make sure that the fuel system is working the best it can. It's got 2 new oxygen sensors. It's got a new air filter. I cleaned the mass airflow sensor. It's got new spark plugs, new wires, new coil, and I ran fuel injector cleaner through the gas, and it's probably running about as well as it can right at the moment, but I still have a P0420 code. So it's time. All right, so I want to start off by making some room under here. I want to get these 2 plastic panels out of the way, and to do that I need to remove the wiper blades, and I did put like some blue painter tape on the windshield here just to mark where these were so that I can kind of try and get them back into the same spot. All right, and to remove these, there's just these rubber caps. We're going to take those off, and we can remove the nuts that hold the arms on. All right, now let's see if these are going to come off. Yep, okay, there's one. There's the other one. Okay, got them both off. Now we need to remove the clips along here. You should have 6 of these clips. I only have 4, but 4 will be enough. I just need to get a screwdriver and get in behind the clip and just pry it out. 1, 2. Okay. 3, 4. Now there's a tab from these side trim pieces from the windshield that kind of clip in here. You want to unhook both of those. Okay, and now just come out. Yeah, that's just gonna kind of slide down away from the windshield. There we go, and that's out. So now we just have this piece, which there's a bolt back here and a bolt kind of in the same place the other side. I think those are the only 2 bolts, and they are 10 millimeter. And we have this that's holding the hose in here. Just unhook the hose, I guess. There's another one way under the light here. So it might be easiest just to loosen up the headlights here and just move them out of the way. That's enough, actually. That'll get me access to that bolt. Now, there it goes. That's enough. There you go. Now that's out. Now it's just going to come out. Lifts right out. How about that? Headlight's kind of in the way still, but well, let's see if I move this one. Yeah, there we go. That one's out. Now I can get it out. Okay, so now we have a little bit better access back here. Now looking down behind here, this is a heat shield. So we've got a bolt here, one over here, and one there that are holding this heat shield on. And we need to get this O2 sensor out as well. So there's a plug over here, and then we just unscrew it. All right, unfortunately, it's really hard to get the camera back in here, but I'm gonna unplug the O2 sensor, the upstream O2 sensor, and there's just a little tab that you press down and then you pull it out, right? And now that's unplugged, and then I'm gonna use my special homemade O2 sensor socket and see if we can undo this. There we go. All right, that came loose. And I got my O2 sensor out. All right, now let's see if we can get these heat shield bolts out. They look like 10 millimeter. All right, so I did spray these last night with some WD-40. Not sure if it's gonna help much or not, but we'll see. It's moving. So the new catalytic converter did come with some new bolts for this, so if these break, no tragic loss, but it would just make getting it out easier. All right, one down. Another one. All right, we'll see how this goes. So these are the top two. One here that I removed, so that's loosed. I gotta get this one over here, which you can't see because the stuff's in the way. And one over here. There, got that off. Yeah, that one broke. Oh well. 3 out of 4. But we got the heat shield off anyway. Heat shield doesn't want to come out. Getting the catalytic converter out should be fun. Oh, come on. It's right there. There we go. All right, I actually have a pretty good view of the lower O2 sensor. Let me see if I can loosen it from up here. It came loose, that's why I dropped the wrench. Yeah. Yeah, that's loose. I don't want to do too much more until I get it unplugged. All right, so I'm gonna try and loosen the bolts that hold, or nuts and bolts that hold the exhaust manifold onto the engine. And looking on this side, you can see that there are 5 of them, right? This is a nut on a stud, this is a nut on a stud, this is a nut on a stud, this one is also a nut on a stud, this is a bolt. The nuts are all 15 millimeters, this bolt is 13 millimeters. So I'm going to try and loosen those now. I did spray them with some penetrating oil, see if that helps. Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, these These aren't going to be torqued down super tight, so hopefully they will come off pretty easily. I gotta get this light out of the way. That one doesn't want to move. See if I can get a little bit more leverage with a breaker bar here. Let's see. There it goes. There we go. That's loose. All right. Got the 4 nuts loose. There we go. Yep, there it goes. All right. All right, the bolt came out pretty nicely. Wow, as rusty as the studs are, I really didn't think that these bolts were going to come off by hand very easily. Not too bad. All right, so the lower one, the nut came out on the stud. So the stud came out. And another one came out with the stud. There you go. All right, and that upper corner on this side, the nut came off, no stud. Okay, so now we have a nut here and a nut here, and that's holding the exhaust together. My 9/16 seems to fit there nicely, so we're gonna go with that. I did hit these with some WD-40 last night. I was kind of hoping, there we go, that would help things, but yeah, I don't know if that's, I think it's broken, but maybe not. That's okay, it's coming out anyway. They came free. How about that? Ugh. All right. So that's loose. Right here, we just need to unhook the O2 sensor plug. There's a tab on this side that you press down and then you can pull out. If you can't get it, a little screwdriver might help. There it goes. Now that's out. All right, so now we've just got the loosened O2 sensor. Come on, get out of here. All right, so we can just turn that out the rest of the way. Okay. All right, so now the only thing that's holding it in is this plate right here. So there's the two, looks like 10mm bolts again, maybe 3/8. So I did spray them up with a little WD-40, so we'll see if they come loose. Hey. Using my impact on a 10mm bolt is probably overkill, but did I just round them off. These are 6 points. Shouldn't have rounded them off, but kind of looks like it did. Well, that's unfortunate. Or loose. All right, so now, in order for there to be enough room to get the catalytic converter out, we have to move the engine forward just a little bit. So I'm gonna loosen up the motor mount on this side, and I have a jack underneath. So there you can see I have it jacked up. I got a board in between the jack and the transmission, or the oil pan actually. So antifreeze bottle, engine coolant bottle out, you just pull up on it. There's a couple of tabs that it's hooked onto. There it goes. There we go. There we go. All right, now we have access to the engine mount. All right, so you can see what I'm looking at here. So these two mount to the engine, and there's 3 bolts, one here, one down here, and one over there that mount to the frame. So I'm going to basically pull out the motor mount so that I have room to move the engine forward. I'm going to loosen these. Yeah. What I don't want, whoops. I just want to keep an eye on it because I don't want the engine to sink down. Yeah. All right, I was afraid that they were going to be hard to break free, but they're not. What's going to happen is you're going to loosen these, and even if you've jacked the engine up, you're taking weight off of the suspension, so the car is actually going to kind of lift up a little bit. So keep going up. Okay, and both of the studs stayed in, so that's nice. All right, now this should just pull it right out. Yep. All right, now we should be able to move the engine. Yeah, so that moves pretty well. There's still 2 studs. There's one here, and there's the other one over on the other side. So I'm going to take those 2 out and make it a little bit easier. Since I've already got 2 of them out that came out with the nuts, I'm going to take those 2 out and hopefully get this catalytic converter out a little bit easier. So, and these are just their external torques, E30, I believe. Okay, got one. Let's get the other one. Where we go? So there's those 2. So while we're talking about the studs here, I want to remove the nut from this stud, and it's just the E30 Torx bit. So what I'm going to try and do, these threads down here are clean, so I want to try and tighten the nut so that it goes into clean threads first, and then I'm going to try and wire brush and maybe oil the external threads so that it can go on and off a little easier. There it goes. Let's see if I can get some WD-40 on there and clean that up a little bit. All right, there it goes. So tighten that up a little bit. So now you can, there's some clean threads here. So I'm gonna take a wire brush, clean them off. Yeah, see, now it moves nice and easy. Yep, so. All right, so wire brush, clean them off, spray them with WD-40, see if I can get that nut off of there. So, and you might need to work it back and forth a little bit. There we go. Got it off. All right, so we need to pull this forward a bit. So I'm gonna stop here. All right, let's see. It doesn't take a lot of force to move the motor right at the moment, so we're not gonna go too crazy. So, and you want to be careful. You don't want to crush stuff up here into your radiator. You just want to move this forward just an inch or two. Sure. You know, there's a lot of flexible stuff, hoses and such up here. So. So it might also use the jack and just lower it just a little bit. That'll give you a little extra room too. Now, let's see what we got with that. Stay. Come on. Well, let me try lower the jack just a little bit, lower the engine. You know, be very careful, be very gentle, make very small adjustments here. Let's see if that gives me enough room. No. A little stuck. it is. Whew. Got the old one out. And here's the new one. So just looking at it, I can tell that these tabs look a little bit different, but we'll see. So one of the things I do want to do is I want to pre-fit the heat shield. I want to make sure that everything lines up, and that's easy to install because it's going to be hard to install once everything's on the car. So as far as hardware, you know, the kit did send me to the 2 gaskets that I need. A lot of new bolts. So we've got nut and bolt combinations for here. All right, that's where these go. Like that. And so 2 new bolts for the ones that I ground off on the bottom. So yeah, those fit in there. Okay, and 4 new bolts for the heat shield. So now one thing I did notice, they will work just fine up here. All right, those will be okay there. Problem is, these, you know, when you put them in, they're going to bottom out. They're too long. So I can either cut these, or I can use the old ones. I think I'm just going to use the old ones. So let's talk for a minute about what catalytic converter I bought. So the OEM catalytic converter from Ford, over $1,800. The car is not worth it. It's 15 years old, and I'm just not going to put that kind of money into it, and I can't imagine what it would cost if Ford was installing it. A good aftermarket catalytic converter, like MagnaFlow, $970. Again, more than I want to spend on this car. There were some Amazon and eBay catalytic converters. eBay ones were like 80 bucks, 80 to $100. That just scared me. So I did go with a fill-top catalytic converter that I got on Amazon. It was about $123. I don't know that you can always equate price with quality, but it wasn't the most expensive. It wasn't the least expensive. So I tried to eliminate all of the other problems. You know, I made sure that everything in the fuel and air system, you know, was working the best that it possibly could. The O2 sensors are good. You know, the air filter, the mass airflow sensor, spark plugs and wires and coil, you know, the fuel injector cleaner that I ran through it. So I was really trying to make sure that the whole system was working as well as it could. If you put a good catalytic converter in a bad system, that car that's not running well, it's going to poison the catalytic converter and it's not going to last very long. So you want to make sure that the car is running well before you put a new catalytic converter in it. All right, let's see how this fits on here. So I can take these out. So luckily I was able to save 3 of these from the old one, so I only have a spare. All right, those are on. Yeah, these tabs are down here a little bit low. All right, let's try and bend these up just a bit. Oh. Now over here, that's over there. Yeah, that's right. Seems like it's not well centered for the O2 sensor. Yeah, see, that's, you know, I can get it in. Yeah, see, I can't get that on there to tighten it. So this heat shield is not quite in the right place. Getting there. I don't think that's it yet, though. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. That'll work. So the catalytic converter that I bought is EPA compliant, but it does not, I guess, meet the standards for California, Colorado, New York, and Maine. So if you live in one of those states, make sure that you get one that is accepted by your state. So now you may be wondering, why does he have 3 of these? This is the original one that was in the car. This is the one I bought off of Amazon, which failed immediately. This is a Dorman catalytic converter that I bought at AutoZone. So I installed this one, and that's the install that I'm going to show because I'm not going to re-record it because it's pretty much the same. If there are any differences, I will add them to the video. So I drove the Fiesta maybe about 30 miles, and the check engine light came back on, P0420 code. So I did use FORScan, and I went through and I checked stuff. And before I even installed this catalytic converter, I made sure things like fuel trim were correct. It does have new O2 sensors. So, you know, it really should have been running in the best possible way. It does not burn oil. It's not leaking antifreeze. You don't smell that burning antifreeze smell. So the car is running in good condition. So you want to make sure of that. And it actually does say that in the Dorman instructions, because if you put a new catalytic converter on an engine that is running poorly, you will kill the new catalytic converter. So after watching the output from the O2 sensors in FORScan, it really looks like this wasn't up to task. It was, you know, it was close. But the downstream O2 sensor was, you know, it should be a relatively flat line, and it had some areas where it was flat, but some areas where it was bouncing. So it looks like maybe this just wasn't quite enough. So maybe in an ideal situation, this one would have worked for a little while, but it just wasn't up to the task. So we're going to try the Dorman, and hopefully it's a little bit better. It was about 3 times the cost of this one, but still less than 1/4 of the cost of a new one from Ford. So I do notice some differences. The cylinder where the housing where the catalyst is actually a smaller diameter. This is a bigger diameter, very similar to OEM. But I think that this is misleading because this has less material in it. So we're going to hope that this is enough. It does have some plugs in the O2 sensor holes. I'll have to remove those. The brackets are a little bit bigger because this is smaller, so they have to stand out a little bit more. I did put the heat shield on it, right, and things line up pretty well. So, and there is nothing obstructing the O2 sensor port, so that should be good to go. So, and you do want to make sure that you pre-fit the heat shield because you don't want to have to fit it on the car. So, you know, right now it's easy to access, make sure everything lines up. Once you get it in the car, it's hard to maneuver things, it's hard to see what you're doing. So just get it done ahead of time. All right, so I removed the heat shield. Let's see if we can get this back in. Yeah, that's not gonna work, because then I gotta flip it around. I don't think I can do that. No, it's gotta go this way. Woo! Wow. It's in. All right. Okay, now that it's in, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the studs back in here. And you just want to turn them in until they bottom out, until they stop. They don't have to be torqued super tight. Now I'm going to put the gasket in place. Just like that. Now I can put the manifold on there. Alright, so I can't really see too much, but you know, I just slid this on, got my studs in, and I'm going to use the bolt. Put that on. Okay. And I'm just gonna put the nuts on, and I'm gonna put them on loosely, because you want to have some play, because you're gonna be trying to connect stuff down below, so you just want to get everything in loose and then tighten it up when you're done. Alright, while I have easy access back here, I want to put the O2 sensors in. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of the anti-seize on there. Just a little on the threads. Alright. This is the upper one. So okay, that's hand snug. Let's get the lower one in. Alright, so I did just put this upstream O2 sensor in. Alright, so and I've got a little anti-seize on the threads of the O2 sensor. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to get in there with a torque wrench, so I'm just going to do the best I can. It should be 26 to 33 foot-pounds if you are capable of measuring that. And the upper one, I'm going to use my socket. Oh, go the other way. Okay, that's what we're going to get out of that. All right, so it would be nice to put the heat shield on, but I can't do that because I got to tighten up the manifold bolts, and I don't want to tighten up manifold bolts until I have the engine back in place. But I am going to set this down here, the heat shield down here. Let's see, get it fed through, you know, so it'll kind of be in place. I can move it out of the way to put the bolts on, but at least it's back here before I tighten up the space. So we need to get this motor mount back in here. Nothing's lined up, of course. All right, let's jack the motor back up. Yep. Now, gotta release this. There we go. All right. Now we need to go back. Getting there. All right, so now we have the motor mount all lined up. Holes are lined up. So the engine's back where it belongs. So these are the two nuts for here. So we got this one in the back. This one up here. And one down below. All right, so the two nuts on the motor mount should be torqued to 55 Newton meters or 41 foot-pounds. That's good. Okay, the bolts that hold the motor mount to the frame should be torqued to 48 Newton meters or about 35 foot-pounds. Now we can put the bottle back here. That one's on. There we go. All right, it's all back on. All right, so these holes do not line up with what's on the catalytic converter. It's close, but not quite. So I'm just going to make these holes a little bit bigger. It's what you get when you save $1,700 on a part. we go. No. Very good. That'll work. All right, now for this. This doesn't have the studs like the original one did. So we've just got a bolt to go through. Oh, I need, don't forget, you need your gasket in there. Come on. There, that's through. All right, so now we want to go and tighten up by the manifold. I want to tighten those first before I tighten everything else down. So these are still, make them loose just so that there's some movement. Okay, everything's loose. So let's go tighten up by the manifold. So now we're back up top. I want to tighten up. I moved the heat shield out of the way. So now I want to snug everything up. So I'm going to start, you want to start in the middle and work your way out. So I'm going to do the top center and then the bottom left, bottom right from my perspective, and then the top left and top right. All right, I'm not going to torque it down. I'm just going to snug it. And then the others are 15 millimeters. So let's see if this will work, if I can get my torque wrench back here. So it's 13 millimeter for the center one, and we're going to torque to 20 pounds. Let's see. Now, you don't really want to use a swivel on torque wrench, but that's the only thing I've got that's going to get me what I need here. There we go. That's 20. There we go. That's it. That's 20. That's 20. Yep. There we go. There it is. That's 20. Yep. That's 20. Okay. All right. Manifold's tightened down. All right. Let's see if we can get this heat shield in place. Okay, let's get this lower bolt. Okay, that's in. Try a lower one on the other side. Alright, that's in. And the top ones, oh, I'm so glad I pre-fitted this outside the car. That's in. Okay, that's in. Tighten them down. All right, heat shield is on. And I've got my O2 sensor that I can plug in. There we go. That's plugged in. All right, I am going to put a little There's no lock nut or anything here. I'm going to put a little thread lock on here. And these are 17 millimeter. That just fits. And I'm just gonna put a little thread lock on this too. You know what? I'm going to put some washers on these. Since I made the holes in the plate a little bit bigger. So also need to plug in, yeah, the O2 sensor, the lower O2 sensor. Oops, there we go, that's all right. Is that plugged in all the way? There we go. Some catalytic converters come with break-in instructions. I looked through the instructions that came with this catalytic converter. I didn't see anything, but I am gonna let it run at idle for 5 minutes and then bring it up to 2,500 RPMs for 2 minutes. And that is, for another brand, a break-in cycle. So I'm just gonna do that. So I also want to clear the P0420 code so that I can start driving it and determine and see if the code comes back. All right, so looking at my scan tool, I'm going to go in the inspection and maintenance mode so that I can see what it's doing. Okay, so all of the green checks means that there's enough data. The no symbols means that those are not valid. Okay, so that the car doesn't have that data. So when I clear the data, these are all going to change to red X's so that you can see that it hasn't accumulated enough data yet. So then you want to drive it until you get all the green checks here so that you know that you have enough data. And if the code doesn't come back, then you should be good. All right, so let's go out of this and go back there. Okay. So I want to look at the engine codes. And I'm going to erase codes. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. Erasing codes, erase done. Okay, press any key. Alright, so now if I go back and look at the inspection and maintenance screen, okay, you see there's a bunch of red X's, so red circles with X's in them. So we want to drive it until all of those turn back into green checks. Okay, check engine light is out. So I know some people say that they see the smoke coming out of the exhaust. That doesn't look too terribly abnormal. So let's see. So there is some smoke coming up off of the manifold. I don't really hear any leaking, so that's probably just the protective coating that they put on so it doesn't rust, burning off. Looking underneath here, some moisture. Interesting. But I don't really see any, there's no leaking, so that's a good seal. Alright, looks good under here. Alright, it's been idling for about 5 minutes. You can see the smoke has subsided, so it's much reduced anyway. It's not nearly as much. So I'm going to bring it up to 2,500 RPMs and hold that for 2 minutes. All right, that's been about 2 minutes. All right, so we just need to put the cowls back, put the wiper arms on, get the headlights reattached, and then I think we're all back together at that point. All right, so thanks for hanging out while I change the catalytic converter on my Ford Fiesta. It's not the easiest job on the car, but the savings make it totally worthwhile. So now all that's left to do is put some miles on the car and wait and see if the code comes back. You can see I have all of the green check marks, and there's 2 not applicable, no symbols. So, and there are no DTCs, no trouble calls. So that means that it is working and it has passed all of its checks. So installing the Dorman catalytic converter was a success. So you may have noticed that there is a pending DTC, pending trouble code. That was actually, I think it's P0320. It's a misfire on cylinder 4. So that I may have to look into in a future video. So the only real difference is when installing the Dorman catalytic converter is, remember I had pointed out that the pipe around the catalytic part had a smaller diameter. That made it actually quite a bit easier to get it in behind the engine. So, and then the other thing was the bracket that I had to drill the holes to make them a little bit bigger. So on the original replacement catalytic converter that I had bought, they were shifted towards the back of the car. So I had to elongate the holes towards the back of the car. With the Dorman, they were shifted a little bit towards the front. So I had to elongate the holes towards the front of the car. So now I have, they're almost more slots than holes anymore. So, and the installation went super smooth because everything had just been taken apart. So I knew all of the steps, there weren't any rusted bolts, everything went very smoothly. I probably did it in less than 2 hours, probably would have been 30 minutes shorter than that if I hadn't had to drill out the holes on the bracket. Alright, so if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to help this channel out, please consider subscribing or becoming a member by clicking the join button below. Thanks for watching, take care.